Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is our You Asked For It achievement run. We're starting chapter 7 of a new game on Akumu difficulty. You can see that Sebastian and Joseph just reached the church. This is the church that was on the top of the mountainside above Cedar Hill. In the last chapter, we were talking about the backstories of each of our main characters.
That sounded close.
It's all right, I'm here. Nothing's gonna get you.
Get you, get you, get you, get you, get you.
We were specifically talking about Kidman, and you can hear her and Leslie down below that statue there, below that grate. Before we continue with her backstory, I want to talk about the cutscene that's about to come up. There are three main components of imagery there that I want to pull out of it.
Hey,
You'll see
Joseph.
that Joseph is reacting to the pressures that Ruvik is putting on people, that he's trying to fight it off, but he will give it a long explanation of how that fight is going and kind of the psychological aspects of that fight. You saw right there in our inventory, we just briefly went by it, a health potion, and you saw that it looks like it's a green serum, that might be green gel. We've talked about what that green gel is, but coming up in this cutscene, Sebastian will use it.
Sebastian, you ever had the urge to just jump? When you're on a high place, or the subway rolls by. Imagine if you had that urge for a minute straight, then 2 minutes.
You fought it off 3 times now, Joseph. You're learning to stop it.
You're not listening. I'm not worried about stopping it, Seb. I'm worried about not wanting to stop it. Some part of me wants to turn. I don't know why, and I can't reason it away. It's deeper than that. It's like instinct, and it's getting stronger.
Hold on. This might...
I just love the way these cutscenes end with Sebastian falling through many layers of physical, solid, what would seem like solid object walls and things, and then landing sideways and staying up. I just love it. Cinematography is so excellent. So the 3 points about that cutscene: Sebastian used the green gel in a syringe to bolster Joseph. We've talked about the green gel being a symbol for the bioelectrical energy of the people that are attached to STEM. He's giving him some amount of that energy to bolster his defenses against Ruvik. The key to what Ruvik's attack there is, when Ruvik was created by dissecting Reuben and putting his brain and spinal column as the core of STEM, Mobius didn't expect to get Reuben. They expected to get the hardware, but they brought the soul along with it. Reuben's consciousness there, so now Reuben, as Ruvik at the center of STEM, has the knowledge of Reuben, has the consciousness and capacity of Reuben. He also has the knowledge that Reuben gained by dissecting various villagers of Elk River. his research there is what led to STEM, but it also gave him a deep insight into what to stimulate inside the brain to get the responses you want. Specifically, he's not trying to overcome Joseph. He's trying to get Joseph to willingly give in, to want to become what Ruvik needs. And that's a completely different pressure, and it puts a different psychological spin on what's happening to the people that are in here. There's the concept of the kind of the villagers and everybody that was when Dr. Jimenez turned on the wireless version of STEM and sucked in hundreds, if not thousands, of people around the Beacon Hospital where the wireless STEM node was located. Ruvik was given basically an unlimited supply of this bioelectrical energy that he's been feeding off of, and he's becoming more and more powerful. But for those sane minds that are in there, he's not necessarily been able to overcome them directly with psychological force. Instead, he's using reverse psychology to try to make those sane minds desire what he desires. The equivalent of a mind game, basically, making you want what Ruvik wants instead of forcing you to do what Ruvik wants. And that's a completely different psychological path that he's taken. The third bit of imagery there that I think is important, but I don't have a great answer for, is that at the front of the church, that huge statue that breaks off and floats away and breaks, that's the same effigy that we've been breaking to find keys to our lockers. When we break one of those small effigies, we find a key to lockers. And so I think that's both literally and metaphorically saying that those statues are key, that this religion is key. I think there's a story here that goes, I don't know what's going to happen in the second game. It's not fully explored in this game. We don't really find what the church, that the church in some way is at the root of all this evil. But there's certainly hints there that the church is somehow key to understanding what's going on. So I just wanted to point that out, but I don't think we get an answer in this first game, and I haven't played the second game, so I can't say what we find in the second game. Okay, so we've talked about that cutscene. We've talked mostly about most of our main characters. We were at the point with Kidman where we were saying that she had run away from home at age 14, wound up in Crimson City, built a rap sheet of starting with petty crime, but it was beginning to be serious crime, including assault with a deadly weapon, resisting arrest, grand theft auto, possession to sell, drug dealing. So as she was turning into an adult, she was turning into an adult criminal and was about to spend a life in and out of jail. Mobius stepped in and made her a deal. That's where we left it at the end of the last chapter. I need to talk a little bit about what that deal is because it's important to what's going on. Kidman was made the deal that they would expunge her police record, give her a clean slate, if she would work for them as an operative inside, an informant inside of Crimson City Police Department. So she's building a rap sheet in Crimson City and winds up being a police officer in Crimson City.
Catacomb note. Help. The metallic pounding. He's coming. I run, but he follows. Help, God, help, 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 help.
So her job, when she was first given the job, was to work under Sebastian and Joseph, the partners. Sebastian's a sergeant, so it wouldn't be unusual for her to be assigned to him, but she's specifically placed with them so that she can provide information back to Mobius about their investigations. They're investigating a missing person. That missing person is said to be a member of Mobius. We deduce through the DLCs and various notes that we find that that person is Myra, Sebastian's wife. When Sebastian and Myra first met as partners at KCPD, they fell in love, they got married, they had a child named Lily. Lily died in a house fire. Sebastian internalized that tragedy as guilt of his own. Somehow he didn't protect his child, and he internalizes that. Myra externalizes it and looks for a source of why did this house fire happen, and she's coming to the conclusion that it wasn't an accident. She sends Sebastian a packet of information. After she goes missing, Sebastian receives this packet, and this packet says that if something happens to me, which something did, she's gone missing, you need to continue the investigation.
Lily's birth announcement. We welcome with love Lily Lynn Castellanos. Born July 18, 2006, 9:56 a.m. At 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 14 inches. Proud parents Sebastian and Myra Castellanos.
Sebastian is worried that that investigation leads to places of power that he can't reach.
Catacombs found beneath parish. Pastor says nothing to lose sleep over. Who took care of this place? Workmen repairing collapsed floor discover man-made passages beneath Cedar Hill Church. Claim they saw mummies. Parish denies access to historians, claiming sacrilege.
Type, I see.
Missing. Chris Taylor, construction foreman, disappeared while overseeing repairs of a fallen church floor. Repairs were nearly completed, so it is unlikely he fell.
So Sebastian internalizing that and Myra externalizing that led to kind of a separation. The police department was hesitant to call it a missing persons case, but eventually did. So Sebastian and Joseph have been investigating now the missing person of Myra, Sebastian's wife. That is leading them back towards Mobius. At least that's the indication that you're getting from the DLC and why Kidman was placed with Sebastian and Joseph. Originally to spy on them to see how their investigation was proceeding. Later on in the DLC, you hear that Mobius considers it an opportunity for all of them to be in the stem at the same time, and calls Sebastian and Joseph expendable. Later on, basically almost forcing Kidman to try to kill at least Joseph. That's important because it puts a new spin on what's happening. She's told that she's supposed to go into STEM, and she's going to bring these two with them. That they will be an asset to help her get through, but her goal is to get find Leslie, and pull Leslie out of STEM and bring him back to Mobius. What Mobius is looking for from Leslie is a replacement for the brain and spinal column of Ruben. That they need something that's more pliable, more compliant as the core of STEM for it to be usable. When they dissected Ruben and made him Ruvik at the center of the core, they expected to get the hardware, but they got the soul with the hardware. And Ruben at the center has brought all of his knowledge of how to apply psychological pressure on a human, on the brains. So he's changed his game with Joseph. For the husks, he overpowers them, takes them over. But for Joseph and Sebastian and Kidman, he's trying a more psychological approach to cause them to willingly convert to Ruben's side, or at least to question whether or not they want to stand in defiance of Ruben. Through the game, we started in Beacon Hospital inside of Crimson City. We saw there that the world was shifting apart, falling all apart, everybody pulled in there together, everybody's subconscious conflicting on what the world's supposed to look like. We pretty quickly get separated out from that, and Leslie pulls in Sebastian into his sanctuary. When he does that, his sanctuary is no longer his own sanctuary. He's then traveling inside STEM. So he goes back to a place, as Dr. Jimenez says in chapter 3, that of course he would go back here. He goes back to Elk River, Elk River is the first place that he was undergoing psychiatric treatment by Dr. Jimenez's brother. That also happens to be the village that was outside the Victoriano estate where Ruben grew up, and the villagers there burned down the barn and killed Laura. And so it's the place where he first started dissecting humans and investigating how the brain works on humans, mostly to take his revenge on the people of Elk River. You hear a little bit about that in the last audio tape that we heard in the last chapter, where he's talking about the church couldn't hide them from me. I could take it all away. And that's what his research became about, was finding out how to torture the brain and the terror that would produce. Now that he's inside of STEM, he's using that terror, those same mechanics to generate the terror to harvest their bioelectrical energy to become more powerful. The reason he wants to become more powerful is because he's discovered Leslie. And Leslie can sync with Ruben, so that Ruben could actually download himself into Leslie, and when Leslie is taken out of STEM, he would come out with him. And we're going to talk about the mechanics of that coming up shortly in another episode or two. I want to kind of draw the timeline of how the story's gone. We started in Beacon Hill, then we went to Elk River Village. This is primarily, we're following constructs that are more stable, and they're coming from Leslie. Leslie couldn't go to his sanctuary, so he went to Elk River. By going to Elk River, then the people that are trying to get to him, Kidman specifically, knows that she needs to get to Leslie. Sebastian, having internalized the death of his daughter, finds Leslie early on in chapter 2, really early on in chapter 2, and wants to help him. I need to get you help. I need to get you back to the hospital. That was his goal in chapter 2, and we go through Elk River for chapter 2, 3, and 4. It's not until 5 that we come back outside of Elk River, and Kidman and Sebastian and Joseph are all reunited. And in that is the first time that Sebastian starts to suspect that maybe Kidman's not who she said she was. She was trapped inside of a water trap. Sebastian and Joseph had to kill a whole horde of haunted zombies to quote unquote rescue her. Joseph says, "I wonder why he trapped you and didn't just kill you." And Kidman says, "Maybe he didn't see me as a threat." Sebastian's subconscious immediately picks up on that and says, "He?" And Ruben, sitting at the center of the core processing of STEM, picks up on that and says, "Oh, I can't let these two be together." The reason he can't let them be together is because Sebastian shows an inordinate amount of force of will. Kidman has the knowledge of what STEM basically is. She may not know all the details, but she knows enough to know that STEM exists and what's kind of going on. He can't let those two exchange ideas and exchange information. Otherwise, the force of will and knowledge together will probably overcome Ruvik. That he will not win. He will not get out through Leslie. So he's done everything he can to prevent that. He immediately yanked Sebastian off into a battle where he had to fight with Laura. It was this big, long, drawn-out thing. And when Sebastian woke up from that, he immediately started seeing, he woke up in his part of the sanctuary inside the war room. Instead of going in through the library through a mirror, he just wakes up there. When he wakes up there, there are files on the table that are all about Elk River and the church. His subconscious is saying, "Yeah, there's a clue here." He's also hallucinating what's happening to his body in real life, that he's being physically attached to STEM outside of in the real world. He's being put into one of those pods with the milky fluid and having stuff stuck in the back of his brain. And in the hallucination of that, there's a couple of frames, and I highlighted those. There's a couple of frames that show Kidman. And so his subconscious is tying what's happening to his body, which is probably being done by Mobius, physically attaching them after they went unconscious in the police car, to STEM. And so he's tying Kidman subconsciously with Mobius, and he's remembering that she was from from Cedar Hill, and at the same time, Leslie and Kidman are now traveling together, and they're going through the cemetery that we saw at the end of chapter 6, and on into Cedar Hill. And so Sebastian's subconscious working on that is trailing behind them. And once again, we're seeing a construct from Leslie. We're seeing where he first created Elk River, where he thought he might be able to find another sanctuary. Now he's with Kidman, and kind of leaking out of the ether of her memories is Cedar Hill. And so now we were traveling to Cedar Hill. Ruvik set up a whole border control checkpoint to keep Sebastian and Joseph out of Cedar Hill. It didn't work, and they got through it, and they got to the church at the beginning of this episode. They got very close to catching up with Kidman and Leslie, and Ruvik just couldn't let that happen. So he once again shows up, but he changes his tactic this time. Instead of trying to stop Sebastian from with like a checkpoint, high intensity combat. Instead, I mean, not that this isn't high intensity combat, but instead he's giving him a different puzzle to work for his subconscious to work on. He shows up in person, shows him that he's here, and that I'm at the center of this and I'm in control. I'm the mystery you need to solve. And then he throws him down in these catacombs. And what these catacombs are is yet another border checkpoint. But this checkpoint is, if you want to know what Ruvik is and you want to know what's at the core of what's going on, then you have to make it through this checkpoint. And Sebastian's detective subconsciousness has decided to put the Kidman puzzle on hold and go find out what is Ruvik. Who is this person? He's clearly the threat. I need to deal with him. And so this is Sebastian's, he's now turned his detective subconscious loose on Ruvik. And this is Ruvik's firewall. This is the way Ruvik walled his self off, his inner self, his consciousness. The secrets that he holds dearest and darkest are down below this checkpoint, below this border checkpoint. And Sebastian is treating it like an interrogation. He's working on solving it, and he's hearing the story and seeing the defenses being put up, and he's saying that the harder these defenses go up, the more I know that I'm on the right track, and I need to figure this out. So while Sebastian is making progress towards figuring out who Ruben and Ruvik is and what maybe is at the heart of what's going on, that's distracted him from being able to find Kidman and connect with Kidman. So kind of the distractionary tactic that Ruvik has turned to here is actually being more effective than the brute force checkpoints of, say, chapter 6. Because now he's distracted Sebastian. Sebastian's no longer working out who Kidman is and trying to figure out what she might know. Instead, he thinks he's going to the heart of the matter. I'm going straight at the problem. I'm going to solve this. I'm going to solve this case. And you cannot keep me out because I'm good at what I do, and I will pull the truth out. So there's a little bit of a test of will coming on here between Ruvik and Sebastian, in that Ruvik's not necessarily wanting him to get to the inner core of who Ruben is and who Ruvik is, but he's also, if nothing else, distracted Sebastian from what's the real threat to Ruvik. At the same time, in the church, Ruvik takes the same type of reverse psychology approach to Kidman. Instead of trying to just thwart her in leading Leslie out of the stem, he changes the script on her. He directly shows her that he can take control over Leslie. By doing that, Leslie now is a threat, a direct threat to the world, and places basically a contradiction in what Kidman sees as her goal. Her original goal was to get Leslie out, to bring him out to Mobius. As we were progressing, she was thinking it's actually saving Leslie, getting Leslie out and bringing him to Mobius might be a good thing even for Leslie. Now she's seeing that if Ruvik can overcome and become Leslie, that bringing Leslie out would bring Ruvik out, and what that might do to the world might be something so heinous that she couldn't live with. This puts her in direct confrontation with the administrator of Mobius, and that confrontation becomes central to that conflict of her mission and what she thinks might be the right thing to do. Put her in direct confrontation with her administrator, so the forces that are on the outside of STEM looking in. It also puts her later on in confrontation with Sebastian, whose Sebastian's goal becomes to protect and save Leslie, just like it was from the beginning of chapter 2 till the end of the game. And so at once he has distracted the detective from figuring out what Kidman knows, and the two coming together, and put them on a course for confrontation. So the beginning of chapter 7 in the church and then the end of chapter 2 in the DLC are crucial for how the two are going to interact. We're going to cut the video here, and we'll pick you up on the rest of chapter 7 in tomorrow's episode. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.